D199 chased after Thomas and Ivo Hugh. Ivo Hugh was the fastest engine, so was Thomas, but D199 was powerful, and Thomas and D199 and Ivo Hugh. Two young engines running away from one old diesel. I'm going to enjoy this. And he ran after them. He went on with his evil laugh. Just then, an old man was on the track. "Hold it right there," went the old man. "Excuse me," said Ivo's driver. Ivo's driver recognized the old man. Well, said the old man. "If it isn't my arch enemy, Philip, and if it isn't my old foe, Scruffy," he said. "You need to stop," said Scruffy. "No, or else," said Ivo. Scruffy was worried. The track was bumpy and decided to move out of the way. "Oh, I was a fool," and Ivo got away. So did Thomas too. D199, said the driver. "Chase after that engine." "I'm sorry," said D199. He said. "For goodness sake," he said. Looks like I have trained you for nothing," he said. "Go after these engines." And D199 did. The driver went inside him. And now D199 was still chasing them, but Thomas and Ivo Hugh went far away from D199. They were scared of him. He knows this? You know this old man? You know this man?" said Thomas to Ivo's driver. "Yes," he said. He was a good friend of mine, but he broke my friendship with me after D199 hated Ivo, and that means D199 wants to execute Ivo? "Yes, he does," said the driver. "We haven't got much time to explain. We must hurry." And so Ivo and Thomas did. "I'll kill you," said D199. D199 was the fastest diesel since he was created by the Duke controller. He said, if I don't scrap those engines, the Duke controller will be so mad at me." The mighty D199 was full of legend, chasing after the engines. The signalman changed the points to go to a safe line. They raced past by the sheds, and D199 raced past by his mate, Mighty Mark. And then suddenly, Neville was on a siding, and there was Ivo. "Help," said Neville. Neville shut his eyes as D199 went into a siding and crashed into the signal box. Ivo Hugh crashed into the signal box. The signal box was in pieces. "Ivo, no," said Thomas, and came off the rails and onto the siding. D199 captured Ivo Hugh. "I'm gonna tear you apart," he said, and D199 smashed Ivo Hugh and the signal box into pieces. Ivo Hugh was in pieces, and so was the signal box as well, after being crushed and damaged by the mighty D199. At last, my buffer's having a steamy for pudding," he went on. And D199 roared away. Neville was shocked, so was Thomas as well. Ivo's driver was sad, and felt cross with D199's driver. "Ha ha 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 ha! went the driver. Now, how do you feel about your own engine? I'm very ashamed of you, he said, and then, he said, this is where you get caught by the cops. There's no cops there, there's no cops there, said Ivo's driver. Who do you think you are, a demon? Well, perhaps. Ivo's driver was cross and punched D199's driver in the jaw, and thudded onto the ground. D199's driver went back in D199, and D199 spoke to Thomas. Thank you for seeing me again, Neville and D199. Neville and Thomas, he said, but it's good knowing you though, he said, and D199 roared evilly away. D199's driver was sad. Please, can the Fat Controller fix him? He said, it took me 7 years to make him mended and good as new, he said. The Fat Controller heard, and then was kind to Ivo's driver. 3 weeks later, Ivo was mended and was good as new. Thanks for saving me, Thomas, he said. You are a good friend, especially you, Neville. And with that, Neville and Thomas were his friends. Hooray, he said, with D199 for my old railway gone, I can enjoy the exercise on this railway. And Ivo Hugh enjoyed the railway, but D199, still sulking, went home, failed and punished. The engines were glad when D199 was gone, and with that, Ivo Hugh was free from D199, and D199 ran away from the Sodor Railway for causing too much trouble.